Hey, Charlie. Nice to meet you.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello, Charlie.
Nice to meet you too. Hi.
Hello. Sorry. Okay, Charlie. So I'm gonna talk to you about the game we are creating right
Okay.
now in SmartSoft. SmartSoft Play is our company. So we are developing an app, a video game. This is a casual game
Okay.
um, about an astronaut um, who is trying to recover things on the space to avoid to lose his job. So I'm gonna share with you a document so you can see
Okay.
the art.
¿Dónde está? Ah, cierto. Aquí traduciendo esa vaina. ¿Es traducido?
No, no sé.
Ah,
Es que hay muchísimas cosas.
sí, hay que
Ok, yo lo
filtrar. Es que hay
traduzco.
que sentarnos es a revisar que sí, que no vamos a mostrar,
Sí.
porque aquí hay mucha cosa. Sí, que ya puede compartir
O le
todo.
compartimos pantalla.
Ah, también.
Pero entonces, primero, ¿dónde está?
Ahí. Espérate, te lo pongo acá al ladito.
So while I'm waiting for that, Doc, one thing Luis mentioned that this is a platform game. So it's is it hoppy jumpy kind of? Are you jumping around or is it flying in space?
Um, Momo is flying. Momo is the name of the character of the game.
Bobo. Okay.
Momo, yes.
Okay.
uh, so Momo is
In
like
space.
flying
hmm
through the space and avoiding obstacles and catching como like cards. ¿Como tarjetas?
Sí, no sé cómo se dice estampillas.
Like catching stamps on the space.
Okay.
The mechanic of the game is still deciding. Like we are
Okay.
deciding which one we are going to use. And so I'm gonna share screen with you. Okay, I am
Yep, I
already
see this
there.
shared screen.
Okay.
¿Cuál quieres? ¿Qué quieres ver?
No sé, los artes.
Sí.
Déjame decir, ¿no?
Ajá.
Estos.
Ah, cool. Cool.
So this is Momo.
Son
As he's,
You are
it looks great. As he's flying through, is he is it is the screen constantly moving left to right?
yes.
Okay. And so he always has like at least a bare minimum amount of thrust that's moving him forward.
Uh,
Is that what's I'm just trying to see the mechanics. Um,
you can touch the screen.
yeah, the idea.
at a hot timing. Go ahead.
Excuse me, what?
Go ahead.
The idea is that you, right now, the mechanic is that you touch the screen and you
Create a
you
gravity.
create a gravity around your finger, the point that you touch on the screen. So Momo is attracted by this,
And the
by
other
this
element.
force.
Okay.
So
Okay. So
the
he wherever you touch,
yeah.
he's gonna area.
Yeah, so the idea here would be like collect these objects and
Right.
reach the package to go to the
Okay.
next level.
Él es un repartidor, ¿no? Delivery man.
Okay. Don't touch at all. Is he moving from left to right? Is he moving? Regardless if you touch?
Yes, I think so.
I mean, not moving where you want him to, but he's always kind of, no matter what. So if the level starts, is he moving at the beginning without you even touching? Not moving to where you want him to move, but just moving straight across the screen. Or do you have to touch in order for him to move at all?
Yeah, you have to touch the screen
Okay.
to move.
Okay, and what happens if you touch behind him? Will he turn around and go the other way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go to
Where you touch.
where you touch the screen.
Okay. And if is there any kind of gravity that's going on?
No. No, he is just
Okay.
floating on the space.
Okay. In this image, it makes sense for him to have. Oh, whoa! What's this mechanic?
Oh no, this is the same mechanic, but he is using like a gadget
Oh, okay.
to avoid the obstacles. In this case, like this,
Okay.
to avoid.
How do you activate the
get
gadget?
Huh?
How does the player activate the gadget?
Aquí como lo activo, pero en ese momento todavía no.
Okay, we are still deciding the mechanic and the game, so we are
Okay.
not sure yet.
Okay. One thing, at least on that first image that I saw, one idea that kind of came to mind is having some sort of gravity, because it feels like you're almost on another planet, or that you're orbiting around another planet. And if you have gravity, then you can kind of have this like timing of touching and falling, or even these images where you have the asteroids. If the asteroids kind of act as an attractor too, so when you're touching on the screen, you're kind of fighting against the gravity of these like little asteroids. Just a thought. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just trying to put in ideas that help kind of reinforce the platforming nature of it.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
Have you
Yeah.
ever played Angry Birds Space or Angry Birds Star Wars?
The asteroids have
Yeah.
gravity too.
Yeah, the idea
Yeah, so they have.
is like the asteroids to have gravity also.
Yeah, so it's kind of pulling the player. The player is trying to tap as much as they can to move Mobo away from the asteroids and to the collectibles and power-ups and things like that. And there's kind of a cool dynamic between having these different attractor and repulsor forces.
Yeah. Yeah, we also have like another mechanic which is using not attraction but repulsion, right?
Oh, great. Perfect. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, so here you can see another like scenarios for the game.
hmm What's the difference between the blue thruster and the green thruster?
No, it's only
There's no difference right now. There's no
Oh,
difference.
okay. You might want to consider it. Maybe one of the power-ups that you collect adds force on the attractor touch, and it changes the color of the thruster. So if it's blue, it's just regular thrust, and when it's green, it's extra thrust or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that would be nice. Acá yo cambiando la fuerza a medida.
A medida que cambies el tipo de magnetismo, cambia el color del resto cada cambio.
Ah,
Azul a verde, esto.
ok.
Entonces, ¿qué más le mostramos?
Muéstrale el momento de dónde está como la historia.
You could also have something where when you touch and hold, it builds up more. It like adds to the acceleration. So if you just tap a little bit, then it's like little tiny thrusts. And if you tap and hold, it builds up more and more thrust to get you to like max acceleration. That way, if you're trying to move from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen really fast, it gives the player a way to do that rather than just tap, 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 tap. There's some finesse between tapping and holding.
Oh yeah, that's the idea. That if you touch the screen, the longer that you touch the screen, the biggest the force is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the idea of the game is that Nova is like a spatial delivery man. Who
You're
is
a space delivery man.
yeah, who
Yeah.
is going to be like kicked out of his job if he doesn't recover all the package that he lost on the space.
Okay.
Okay.
And those little collectibles that you're collecting, those are the packages that you need to deliver?
Yeah.
And then how do you deliver them? And who do you deliver them to?
Okay, yeah, he has like a crush on the space, so he
Okay.
lost the package, and at
And he's
the
collecting
end,
all of them.
yeah.
Right. And so, but once he collects them, what does he do with them?
We still don't know.
So one thing that you could do is in each level, there could be there's this scattering of packages that have kind of been strewn about from the crash, but with each level, there's also a central place where he can take them back to, and you're trying to beat your time or something like that. So you're tapping on the screen to pick these things up, and then also tapping on the screen to fight the attractors and repulsors that are in the environment to get over to like the delivery box or something like that. Maybe it's like a backup ship or something like that. So your ship crashed, but now you have to help collect all the packages and put it into the backup delivery ship. And when you do that, then you move on to the next level, and it kind of brings everything together in the theme of what you're going for. And it also gives like an end goal for the packages that you're collecting, rather than just picking them up and not doing anything with them.
Okay.
And it reinforces the mechanics that you've already created.
Excuse me?
It reinforces the mechanics that you've already created as well.
Yeah.
Because you're not adding any new mechanics. You're trying to move from one point to another, and there's like if you've played like Angry Birds or some other games, there's some like 3 stars that you can get for each little level or something, and if you do it in a certain amount of time, you get 1 star, and you have to get at least 1 star to pass the level. And if you collect everything in the shortest amount of time, then you can get 3 stars. So basically, you're kind of up against your own time, and then subsequent levels need a certain number of stars in order to unlock.
Okay. Yeah.
And mostly, like right now, I've just been thinking about the game mechanic. I haven't really been thinking about monetization. How do you guys plan to monetize this? Are you going to sell it for 99 cents or $1.99 from the get-go, or do you want to try to do free to play?
At the beginning, it's going to be free to play, and then
Okay.
we are going to have like a store where you can
Okay.
buy some gadgets.
Or personalization
Uh,
for the character or something. It's like microtransactions on the application. So
right.
you can buy everything. So better arms or better ¿cómo se dice?
Outfits.
Outfits, everything.
Okay. So, one of the things that you might want to consider is thinking about that stuff ahead of the game. Um, so, for instance, and this is something I've talked to Luis about extensively. One of the things that Kixeye does, and are you guys familiar with Kixeye?
Kicks what?
Kixeye. Typing it in the chat.
Okay.
So they make a lot of they're primarily browser-based games, but but all of their games are free to play and they monetize. Their free to play games are all multiplayer.
Yeah.
Multiplayer lends itself, and I'm not trying to say that you guys need to change stuff. I'm just thinking that multiplayer lends itself to kind of more of a social compulsion on the player. If all my friends are playing this game and all my friends are playing with me, then that's going to compel me to play this game more. And when I'm playing this game more, then I'm being exposed to more opportunity to buy things. That's how Kixeye makes their money, and also same thing with Supercell with Clash of Clans and Heyday. But in addition to that, what Kixeye does is on every team they have a designer, a product guy, and artists working together. And the product guys are the ones who are focused on monetization. And from day one, they are working with designers and artists to build what's called a feedback loop in their game to encourage and to provide opportunities for the player to purchase things. Most people who play free-to-play games are going to go out of their way to try not to pay for them. If they can play the game and they don't get anything extra by buying stuff, they probably aren't going to buy it. So if we're talking about costumes and things of that nature, they're probably not going to buy those things unless you have such a huge following, like League of Legends, for instance. They have so many people playing that game that so many people want all these outfit changes and stuff. In multiplayer games, the players pay to play. As you know, as they've played for free for a long time, and now they've invested all this time into this game, and since all their friends are playing, it becomes more worth it. There's more value to the player to pay money for it, whether it's $1.99 or $10 or $20 or something like that. Personally, I've spent $40 on Clash of Clans. But that's because I was in a clan with all my friends, and we all played actively, and it was fun. So I saw value in it. Single-player games, that's more limited because there's a whole bunch of free-to-play games out there. So I might play one free-to-play game for a while, and then when I get to what's called a paywall, meaning like now that you've played this game for free, in order to advance, you have to buy this gadget or something like that. I don't necessarily want to buy that gadget, so I'm just going to stop playing that free-to-play game and go download another free-to-play game and play that one. So you want to make sure that your game is fun. In that, I would actually suggest for single-player games, it's better to come out of the gate with like 99 cents or something like that. and the reason is because there's not going to be that many. There's not a lot of compulsion for the player to pay to play your game, because a lot of that compulsion is social. Like in these mobile games that make tons of money. It's all multiplayer. I'm compelled to pay money because my friends are playing and I like playing with my friends. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So
And
the first step would be like create a community of users, or and then start like the multiplayer mode, or just start it from the beginning.
I would say that I wouldn't. I'm not saying that you need to do multiplayer. What I'm saying is that if you do single player, what I would do, and I would either do single player or multiplayer. I wouldn't have a multiplayer mode. Either your game's single player or it's multiplayer. It shouldn't be both. If you go the single player route, you should charge money for the initial download, like 99 cents or something. I mean, I'll pay 99 cents for a pack of M&Ms. I'll pay 99 cents for a game just to check it out. So I think you'll generate revenue that way. When you look at a game like Angry Birds, at least like the first Angry Birds, it was like 99 cents or $1.99 or something like that. And when you bought that game, you got like 1,000 levels. And so to me, the amount of time and game that I purchased for 99 cents or $1.99 was worth it, because there are so many levels that I can unlock and play that that the initial purchase was worth it. If you only have like 20 or 30 levels or something like that, and you're charging that amount, then it's not going to be as valuable to the player. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's just that. I just wanted to mention that on like monetization and that kind of thing.
So for 99 cents, how many levels would you say that is like the fair to pay?
You could do 100 levels initially, because you can always release updates that have more levels, and you can just give those to the people who have already bought the game. But I think the thing that makes it easy for Angry Birds to generate that number of levels is because their gameplay is really simple. They have a bunch of like little structures and like some a little array of birds that you can launch at these things and knock them down, and you try to kill all the pigs, and that's their game. I think with your game the mechanics are really simple. We haven't talked much about the gadgets, but as far as like collecting these things and doing attractors and repulsors and things like that, and going for like the number of stars, it seems like just those mechanics you could make a large number of levels in a short amount of time. And for your art assets, rather than hand paint all of the backgrounds, it would probably be better to build a collection of assets and themes, like, this is red planet, this is blue planet, this is, purple planet, or something like that, so that you have a collection of themes and you can make 100 levels out of that one theme.
Oh yeah, we have like cheese planet and...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you have this collection, and then you can just give that whole collection in the tools with the simple mechanic to one person on your team, and then that one person could go out and generate 100 levels.
Okay, I have a question.
Over like a couple of weeks. Yeah.
How can we define the elements that we can use for stimulating the competition in the video game? Like we have friends playing the same game, but how we can know at the beginning the elements that we can use to stimulate the competition. Yeah, because at this moment in mobile we have just to recollect stamps, but if in a level we have to recollect 50 stamps, for example, this is not an element that we can use for the competition, because every player has to recollect 50 stamps. So
Right.
a method to know at the beginning these elements or something.
One thing that you could do is, if you're not going to have like direct or asynchronous competition, excuse me, is that you can have maybe you tap into Facebook, because Facebook's a huge social network, so might as well use that as opposed to trying to create your own. You tap into players' Facebook friends, and their Facebook friends that are playing this game, they'd be able to see their scores for certain levels, or you could maybe set up a time to actually have like a race or something like that. Like let's synchronously play this level together and collect these stamps, or to do it, just display the stats of other friends in like a little UI element off to the side. Like if you can see my camera, like over on the side of the screen, you just have like a little list of the of your friends, like the top 3 scores or something like that on that, in terms of time or something like that. And if you beat those, then you get like a little bonus. Does that make sense? It seems like that's how I would, at least that way you're reinforcing the social aspect, and it's going to be in every level. I think that would probably, rather than changing your whole game to be a multiplayer game, I think that would be a good way to integrate it.
Yes, that makes sense. Hi, Charlie. I'm Andres. So I have a question. When you talk about the competition, how we can make it the game more competitive, more challenges. Like we have the normal levels in the game, but we should have more unlockable levels, like for a short time, for a week, for example, make it the game more competitive.
Do you mean like making it free for a week?
Or yes.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. One tactic that some developers use is that they'll release their game, and when their game first comes out, it'll be free for the first month. And what that does is it generates a bunch of user downloads, and it also generates a bunch of ratings, and then you make it pay for like a few weeks. And so now people who want to go play it are going to pay it, and then it's going to kind of move down in the list and down in downloads. Then you make it free again, and it goes back up. But at least you have this kind of like pattern of like making it free and paying, and you're going up in terms of downloads, and then when you go down in terms of downloads, you're going up in revenue, because the people who are playing your game and downloading your game when it's paid are paying money. Some developers, when they've done that, they've actually just made their game free, because at that point they figured out a way to monetize it, or they have such a big community that they can monetize it. I think that's you can also look at like Angry Birds Star Wars, like that's free to play, and there are areas that make it that get really challenging, where you want to like unlock a few more things, like you want to have more birds to throw. So there's things that you can do in the game to make it like that. But even me, as someone who's spent $40 on Clash of Clans when I played Angry Birds Star Wars, I got to that point where the levels became so challenging, where I really needed more characters to throw at the pigs, but I was not compelled to do it. I picked up other games at that point. So you have to be careful about, in single-player games, if it's free, where you put your paywall, or if you have a paywall.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Mm, Okay, so to monetize
Hmm.
a single player game, what would be the best way to do it?
Um, well, it's hard. It's hard to say a best way because it's all going to be data driven. Um, if I think by reinforcing the social aspect as much as you can. Um, if have you guys played Farmville 2 Country Escape at all?
Yes.
Yeah, so that game primarily is a single player game, um, but they have these like co-ops that you can join that can be all of your Facebook friends. So you can join a co-op. So even though you're playing this single player game, you're like part of this bigger co-op with all of your Facebook friends. And that I think is a good way of compelling players to stay with the game, and that's your main goal, is to keep players playing your game, because as soon as they finish your game or unlock and beat all the levels, why do they want to keep playing your game? With Farmville, what they've done is they've started releasing these events, and that really builds the compulsion, and people really want that end prize, so they're gonna do all they can to do it for free, but in some cases they might pay $1.99 or $4.99 or something like that to buy a set of keys to keep it going, even though it's not like a direct multiplayer game. So I think just reinforcing the social mechanics, or the social attributes, and providing updates. So you need to treat this game as kind of like a live service as opposed to like finishing the game and then moving on to something else. Like, this game should be a service that you're providing players, and that you always have people updating it and maintaining it, and you're always rolling out new content. You have an integrated social aspect to it, whether it's multiplayer or not. So I think those things will really help.
Okay.
It's not easy. I mean, there's no one easy answer. It's going to be something that. So one thing that Kixeye does too is they constantly are adding to the game, and they're always watching the forums about how and their games are multiplayer too, but they're always watching the forums and to see what people are liking and what people don't like. And then sometimes people don't like a certain thing and they go and take it out, or people really want a specific mechanic and they go in and add it in, because whatever they can do to keep people playing their game is good, because then it provides more opportunity for them to purchase things. With Zynga, originally Zynga did not. They would put a whole bunch of people on a whole bunch of different games, and whichever one would start making money, then they'd throw the rest of them away and put more people on the one that was making money. Although now what they're doing is they're treating their games, and it's especially apparent with Farmville 2 Country Escape, they're treating those more as a live service. They have a team on it all the time. They're constantly updating it. They're constantly rolling out new stuff, and they have like a well-integrated social mechanic, and that keeps people playing the game, because there's always something to do.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
No
Uh,
problem.
we would like you to ask for level design. Like you already saw some scenarios of the game,
Uh-huh.
so can you talk about that?
Level design.
Yeah.
Well, I think it might be. So some games they have the whole level you're able to kind of like pinch and zoom and see the whole level at the same time, and then zoom in to focus more on your character and the specific mechanic at hand. It really depends, and it might be something that you want to focus test too. I'm a firm believer in iteration and in making changes based on data, and I think that if you you might want to build out some larger levels and then also have some smaller levels and then test it out with a small user group. Not no one that's actually working on it, but like maybe friends and family and that kind of thing, and get their just see like how long it takes to just look at the data, not necessarily their opinions, but look at the data and see like how long does it take them to complete the level, how many people give up when a level is too big, how many people give up when a level is too small, what level do people give up on, that kind of data, and that at least at a high level that will kind of like help drive like the overall scope of how big your level should be. The way that I think of level design is that, and especially since you have like several different kind of worlds or universes, like you have like the cheese planet and whatnot, you kind of want to decide like how many levels you want in there. And since this is a mobile game, is this iPad or is this iPhone and Android? Is it tablet or phone?
It's multi-platform.
Okay. What do you think? What's your target audience though? Is it people who have a mobile phone or is it people who have a tablet?
Both.
Más para celulares.
So the reason I ask is because the expectation of the player is completely different on a tablet versus a phone. So for instance, when people are playing a game on a tablet, they might be sitting down to a 15-minute game session. And when people are playing on a mobile phone, that they'll probably only be playing for like a few minutes here, a few minutes there, maybe even like less than a minute or something like that. And that's really going to dictate how big you want your levels to be, because if you have a player who's playing on a tablet, you can assume that they're going to be dedicating more time to it, and therefore you can make your levels bigger. However, on a phone, they're probably playing it while they're waiting at a bus stop or they're waiting for a doctor appointment or something like that. They're probably not dedicating a whole bunch more time to it. They might only have like 30 seconds or a minute to play a level, and so therefore that would dictate your levels need to be a lot smaller. So I understand the cross-platform development, but and it's easier on a console, like between Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. You can assume that someone who has either of those would be sitting down for the same amount of time and playing that. But when you're talking about like the iPhone versus the iPad, people play games in entirely different situations, and the game needs to kind of support that the amount of time the player has. So that's something that you should consider too. Maybe release an iPhone version and a iPad version, and those actually have like different level. I don't think you can actually do that on iOS. I'm not sure, but if there's a way to release bigger levels on the iPad and smaller levels on the iPhone or tablet and phone.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. You know what I was thinking that would be sort of important in the kind of games the kind of games mobile is. It's kind of like the flow of the level. So since it's did you see the mechanic?
Yeah, I mean I saw the images.
Oh, because I don't know if you saw the mechanic. Based on the mechanic, the flow of the levels would be different than like a side scroller. So I don't know, Andres or Angelica, if you can show the gift that I saw on the test on the mechanics. ¿Lo tiene a la mano?
Háblale Google Doc.
Perdón, dime, Luis.
¿Tienes ahí el gift de las mecánicas? ¿Lo tiene a la mano?
Está en el Drive, compártale la pantalla.
A traer. Sí, pero no sé dónde está el GIF.
Está en el documento de diseño, ¿no?
No, ¿dónde está el documento de diseño?
Because what they have like, so you're flying. They haven't decided the mechanic. I don't know because I think the enemies are asteroids that you have to avoid. So for the flow of the level, I think that would be a good analysis to make.
Well, I think just based on that information, like so, the like if you're going to go with like gravity, the gravity of the asteroids attracting you, and if you hit the asteroids, they destroy you. I think like I mentioned before, like I firmly believe in iteration, and it's hard to quantify the right feeling. For instance, I just made this like little side scroller with like moving platforms and slippery ice that I run on, and there were a lot of variables involved with that. There was the speed and jump of the character. There was the friction on the and the acceleration dampening on the ice surface. There was the movement of how fast these platforms move, and then there's also the spacing between these platforms. So you have all these different variables, and it's not a direct answer, but you have all these different variables that you need to kind of play with to figure out what feels right to the player. The one thing that you want to, a good guide for a good level is a level designer or the development team should be able to beat that level 100% of the time without ever dying. As soon as the level designer makes a level that becomes challenging to them, it's going to be impossible for a player. You want people to play and succeed at your game. You want everybody to always know what they need to do and how they need to do it. The task becomes, and the challenge becomes executing it. So I think with that in mind, my answer is it really depends. It depends on how many variables you have. Like you already have like you already have a variable with tapping and holding down on the screen. That's going to kind of dictate the amount of thrust or the amount of movement based on that tap and hold is going to be variable. So you have to. That's one thing that you have to focus on. The amount of attraction force on these asteroids or repulsion force on the whatever things that do the repulsion, that is going to be a variable to account for as well. Also, if you have levels where these asteroids are moving around, so now you have a thing that's moving across the screen that has a force of attraction to it, and you have to account for how that's going to change things. All these things are really interesting and really fun to play around with, but in your scheduling, you need to build time for someone to figure that out. And it's going to be different on every kind of world, right? So you might have the ice planet and the cheese planet and the pink planet or whatever. You might have new mechanics that are being unveiled in each of those kind of worlds, and you'll need a designer that kind of has their head wrapped around the flow of that. Like, so for instance, like World 1, you might have no asteroids at all, and it's just you have a little bit of gravity, so the characters kind of they kind of fall a little bit. You don't want them to hit ground because they'll pop their air bubble and die or whatever, but they have a little bit of gravity on them. That's kind of attracting them to the ground, and you can kind of tap and play. Then the next one, you're further away from the surface, and there's asteroids, and the asteroids are just static; they don't move. And so now you have the player having to navigate through these multiple attraction areas and through their force of movement. And then in the next world, you might have asteroids that are moving around on the screen, and so now they have to deal with that as well. And you might have some moving asteroids and some static asteroids. And you ramp up the level of difficulty and the number of variables that you're introducing. And then on another world, maybe you have a floating enemy that repulses or is floating thing. You introduce repulsion, and so now you have repulsion in addition to like you have static repulsion in addition to static attraction in addition to moving attraction. So that's kind of you need to put someone in charge of figuring out how all of these mechanics are going to work together, and then start prototyping a bunch of levels where these mechanics are being rolled out. Does that make sense? And then focus test a lot as well. I don't know if I'm directly. I don't know. It's hard to directly answer like what's the perfect level because it really depends on how many variables are around, and it's more of a feeling than something that you can specifically quantify.
Okay, so we have like a prototype of the game, of the game. So we are going to show you.
Okay, cool.
So this is a simple prototype where we are showing mobile like a triangle. Mm-hmm. So when we touch the screen, it's like we make a magnetic field, and the triangle coming to here. So we are experimenting. The idea is to make a repulsion too. So when we touch, the triangle is not going where we are touching, but he is going against the direction of the touch. We have to put additional variables, like what you say, the asteroids have itself gravity and something else.
Right. And so when if you tap, does MOBA go all the way over? Does the astronaut go all the way? Does he stop at the? Does he slow? Is there any friction on him?
Yeah, there is no friction at this time. No friction on the space.
That's cool. So if you wanted him to specifically stay in a spot and he's already moving, you're going to have to tap around him a lot to kind of center him and get him to stop, right?
Excuse me? Can you repeat?
So, sorry. So if he's moving in a direction and you want him to stop, you're going to have to tap in the opposite direction until he slows down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I think that you have a cool little prototype there. You did have asteroids in a ground thing. You might want to. I think one thing that you might want to figure out is like how do you the boundaries of your level, like how do you because I saw him go off screen, the little triangle went off screen. Is that a different part of a level, or how do you, or maybe and it also it depends on if your level is bigger than your screen. So if your level is the same size as your screen, then you can just say if you go out of the screen, you're dead, you're lost, right? Like that movie Gravity, you're gone. You're just flung out into space with no oxygen. Or if your level's bigger than that, maybe your camera follows your character around, and the boundaries can just be like little clusters of asteroids around it. I mean, you have some screenshots of it kind of taking place on a planet with like a ground plane, so that could be a boundary. And then you have other images that have it almost seems like the character's like floating way more out in space. And if that's the case, you could create a boundary that's like of asteroids, and it could be bigger than the actual camera, but the camera kind of follows the player around, as opposed to the player kind of moving around inside the camera. That way you'd be able to see more of a level. So, and you also, since you showed me your prototype on a tablet, it seems like that's kind of your target platform and that's kind of your target audience as opposed to a mobile phone. Is that true?
We are still deciding.
Oh, okay. It might be good to build the same kind of game and put the prototype on both the tablet and the phone and then test it and see how people do. Just that should rather than it being your own gut and your own decision. You should weigh that, but you should also get some data from like a user group too, to see what platform people are more attracted to with this game.
Okay.
Okay.
Sería una forma de medir que los niveles van limitados por el juego correcto. Porque entonces nivelado no pasa nada. Correcto.
O sea, que qué forma de medir qué tan complejo es el nivel, que realmente los niveles limitados son más sencillos que los. Okay. We have a question about the design of the levels. There is a way which we can use to make a measure of the complexity of the levels. I mean, if we have the first level, and how we can know that this level is easier than the next, and so on.
So the first thing that I would advise is to not build your first level first. Build a good challenging level first, and then back off. Then remove some of those variables that we talked about. So you have a challenging level that has like moving repulsors and static repulsors, and moving and static attractors, and maybe enemies, and maybe a moving delivery thing. So you have like all of these moving things. That's like a really hard, challenging level. And then what I would do is back off of that. Start removing some of those elements all the way down until you have something very simple that's just like maybe there's one asteroid that has one attractor on it, and you're just going around that. That's the way that I would do it. And it's kind of like the way that some like electronic music is developed. They don't actually develop the first part of the song first. They have that like really crazy frenetic moment where the dance crowd's like really dancing hard, and then to build up to that, they remove elements going back. And I think the same is true for level design. All the games that I've worked on, we never design the first level first. Because you kind of want to bring people up to a level of difficulty, and now you have like a window to do that. So you might have, and then from that like really challenging level that you created, you can take steps to make it even more challenging, make your game even more challenging beyond that. So that's how I would recommend making it easy, or having like a difficulty curve. And then once you have that in like kind of a prototype or alpha state, then I would run it through focus tests and see like, hey, these people all die for the first time at this level. Is that acceptable to you as a development team? And if it is, then you say, hey, we did a good job. That's great. If everyone's dying on like level 3, that might be a sign like, hey, we need to work more to make it even easier. And so you build more levels that lead up to that spot where people die.
No,
Okay.
that's great.
I think, sorry, if I can interrupt with one comment. One thing that I've seen that it's been changing over the months or the years. It's like sometimes a lot of people say, oh, the game has to be super easy, and then when like Flappy Bird came up, I heard a lot of people saying, oh, the games have to be super difficult. So that keeps changing a lot. So I was thinking that it's important to know what kind of game do you want to make. If it's easier or more difficult, depending on the target. And that's
that too, yeah. Yeah.
You see the arts, right? Charlie?
What?
You already saw the arts?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so based on the arts, which one would you consider that our target audience is?
Can I look at them again? Is there a way to see them again? That's fine. Just right there is good. Or go back to that overview screen, if you can.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, right there. I think like something that resonates with me, and I'm just one person, so I think you should take this in front of a user group as well. But something that resonates with me is the Cheese Planet stuff. It looks like those are the concepts that have kind of been worked out the most. And I would put that in front of people and see how they like it. For instance, you might want to say like which image is show them a bunch of different stuff and say like which image is the one that kind of resonates with you that kind of says this is a game that I want to play. And I really like the vacuum one down at the bottom too. That shows a lot of game mechanics. But I think to decide like if you're shooting for a hardcore or more softcore audience, you probably want to put the prototype in front of people because that's really where the game's difficult. That's where the game's difficulty really shows. And you might find people who play that prototype might say like, oh, I don't like playing games that don't have any art assets. And right there, you know, like, hey, this person is probably a softcore person because they like games that are pretty but not necessarily play well. Or if you find that a wide variety of people are really into the prototype in its kind of like prototype look, that they're going to play that game because of the game mechanics, you could assume at that point that they're probably a more medium core or hardcore audience. So I think just trying to get as much data as you can from doing focus tests will help guide your decision in the difficulty of this game, like for the player.
Luis.
Acá estoy.
No sé qué otra cosa crees que podemos
si tuvieran ahí, ya vamos a ver el prototipo. Si no tiene unas dudas específicas, me parece que de pronto él sabe mucho del lado de producción, en cómo organizar el equipo, no sé si tengan dudas por ese lado. El tema de organización, de producción.
¿Hacia qué lado enfocas el tema de producción vos, Luis?
¿Cómo?
¿Hacia qué lado enfocas vos el tema de producción como tal?
Digamos, en el momento en que ustedes están y cómo enfocar el juego para avanzar de la mejor manera.
Ah, ya.
¿Les interesa eso?
Sí, pregúntale por favor. A ver, ¿de qué forma?
Hey Charlie, we're talking that so right now what they did, they started with the art, the story, the character, the colors, and now what they're trying to figure out is the mechanic. So one thing that we think is very important is how to approach their production in terms of where to put the focus. You know, like task-wise, milestone-wise, to get the game done. Like what I was talking with them from my experience, when you advance too much on the art on that side without knowing the game, then you'll be in trouble later on. So I don't know if you have any specific techniques or what would you advise right now?
I think it depends on the makeup of the team. Like just looking at it from a pure production side. So if you have a bunch of artists that are waiting for something to do, then obviously you want them to probably be doing something. you might be able to assign some of those artists more design tasks as well. Like, hey, help you. I know you're an artist, but you need to help figure out the design for this level so that it's fun. Ideally, I would, if you can, I would slow down the art side until you figure out all of the design side, and until you've prototyped enough where everyone on the team knows what this game is, and everybody is like really excited about it in terms of like how it's going to play, the end user experience. And then once you know that, then I would ramp up the art side to make all of the levels pretty. I would also maybe work in such a way where the artists are creating kind of modular pieces that designers can then use to populate the world, so that artists aren't necessarily painting beautiful backgrounds for every level. Every level is actually comprised of like a modular background piece, as well as like modular asteroid pieces, in addition to like the any effects and stuff like that. It should all be modular, so that, especially when you're trying to create so many levels.
Okay.
Does that help answer that question?
Yeah, I think like the main thing right now is like focus and get it to the final stage of the development. That's like the main thing right now, kind of tied everything together.
Yeah, I would have the art team building modular pieces and the design team figuring out all of the mechanics, and then have a programmer that can quickly prototype some of those mechanics so that you can quickly decide if they're fun or not. As you have like a collection of those fun mechanics, then you'll have the modular art pieces to back them up, and then you can keep plugging away with development.
Let me ask you a question. Did you have any concepts or like a methodical way to analyze what might be fun, or just kind of by instinct? That's a very hard thing to get.
That's good.
You're talking to me, right, Luis?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be it's hard to quantify it because fun is a feeling, not it's an opinion. What I think is fun, you might not think is fun. The way that I think it's a making of a good designer too, is figuring out what's fun, and it really depends on the balancing of all of those different variables that I talked about before, like balancing the speed of the character versus how fast asteroids move versus the strength of these attractors and repulsors, and then putting that in front of players, and then if so when you feel that something is right, when you feel that something feels good and is fun, if you put it in front of the rest of the team too, and if everyone plays it and says, wow, this is really cool, then put it in front of other people and get their feedback too. If you have 100 people that say that it's fun, you can probably at that point say, yes, this is actually fun now. Cause what's fun for me isn't necessarily fun for other people, but I have a good idea of what's fun. People don't like dying all the time because of the platform move speed it doesn't match with the character mechanics. So there's responsibility on the designer side to iterate a lot, and I think that I guess the only way to really figure out if something's fun or not is to iterate on it, is to try this, try that, keep adjusting these little speeds and these little forces until a designer can get through it perfectly the first time playing it and not die at all and has like a good time doing it. Once you get to that point, then they roll it out to other designers or producer, programmer, something like that, and get them to play it and get their feedback on it. So it's all about user testing and iteration. That's really the only way you're going to be able to find out if something's fun or not.
Right.
And it doesn't
Yeah.
like when I say iterating on it, I mean iterate on it as fast as possible, so that by the end of the day tomorrow you have a level that you can put in front of people and in or 2 levels or 10 levels or something like that, depending on, I don't know how big your team is, but you want to be able to make really fast iterative changes and be able to put that in front of someone to test.
Yeah, testing. You guys have any other questions?
No. We don't have more questions.
Yep. All right, great. So I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks, Charlie.
My pleasure. Thank you guys. It looks great, and I'm looking forward to checking it out more in the future.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you guys then.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.